Hey everybody, it's your old pal Chuck, and I'm back with another review. And today we're taking a look at the Transformers Legacy Evolution line. This is Armada Hotshot. Now, full disclosure before we get into the review proper. I got this figure from Amazon. The figure is shipped in robot mode. Unfortunately, mine came with a factory defect. That defect is, if you look at the top here, this little hinge panel piece, which will swings out from the windshield and the roof, was missing on this side. This is a yellow piece, and yes, the colors really don't match. Well, they match here, but they don't really match to anything else, uh, especially the paint on the roof. But what happens is this swings in and becomes part of the back leg in robot mode. There is no way to see it in the packaging. That was missing. It frictions right into place. It was not in the box. It wasn't anything. Amazon has already gone ahead and replaced the figure, but I figured since I already have this one open and it was a small thing that really doesn't affect the transformation, I figured I'd use this one as the review model, and then figure out what I'm going to do with it since I don't need two hot shots, and there's that. But this is the car mode. Rolls quite nicely. It does have its engine block. Now, there are no gimmicks, spring-loaded gimmicks or anything, and there is no mini-con included. Would have been nice to have. I think it to have a jolt to simulate, the pegging on the back here, the flight mode. You can flip open the front sections here, which are the feet, to sort of approximate the front saw blade mode there that would spring out when you add the engine block. Now, speaking of the engine block, which is also its weapon in robot mode, be very careful pegging this in. It pegs in super, super tight. So what you want to do is just don't push it down all the way, just enough for it to hold. And then it would be easier for you to pop out. I've pushed it in all the way. I've gotten it out a couple times. I'm definitely afraid of breaking these pegs. And it kind of looks like this is red plastic that was painted silver. So, I've gone ahead and removed this. So why don't we just go ahead and get into the transformation. First thing you want to do is, I would say, come around here on the side, open up the doors, just swing them out a little. You want to fold them down all the way, not just yet. And then proceed to separate the roof and windshield section from the top of the car, and then split the parts. Now, let me just mention here, for this, the windshield and roof section, instead of pushing it together, try to tap it down. This side has the tab, this has the slot. Put the slot over, press down. Split the front here, and then you're going to come to the front here where the feet peg together. Same thing. Don't try to squeeze them together, slot it in. That's a lot easier and a lot better. So once you have that done, go ahead, you can flip down the sides there. You don't need to fold out the feet yet, so your hands have a little room. Go ahead and flip in this panel here, and you would do it on this side if it was there, and then rotate this down and out of the way, just so you have some room to maneuver. And let's come to around the rear of the vehicle, and you're going to extend the legs all the way. There's a tab there. It's going to fit into a slot in the hinge, and that will peg the legs, secure the legs into place. Next, what you want to do is give yourself some room. Bring this panel around, and you'll see this. There's this long bar here. There's a slot on that windshield that it kind of pegs in. It sits there. And then what you want to do is rotate the legs so the door panels, which are now the front of the legs, are facing forward, and then go ahead and flip up the feet. One thing you can do now is grabbing the heel pop the foot loose. You want to make sure you do go back and you make sure you pop these back in, because there is a post there and a slot that's how the feet secure in. And that if you don't do that, the car doesn't look like solid from certain angles. So just make sure to do that. And rotate the figure at the waist so that everything's facing forward. And when you go to bend the knees, make sure you grab that whole section. You might run the risk of disengaging the windshield from those tabs, but it can be easily fixed. Part of that is because they are on ball joints, so there is that little issue there. I mean, I think it would have been better if there was like a secondary tab or something to really secure it in, but what have you. While you're here, rotate the arms at the biceps so the fists are facing forward and those little side bits are outward. Come up to the top, the rear of the car. Accordion these panels up and forward. And then what you'll do is bring this whole section back. There are tabs right there that will fit into slots that were used to secure the windshield in vehicle mode. Open up the chest, flip out the head, and if you have a problem with the visor staying up, make sure you have it pushed back all the way that you can feel its soft detent into place. And with all this done, now what you want to do is bring these bits forward. There are slots there that will peg into the top of the chest panel. Sometimes not well, as you can see on this side, it's not staying down. You might have to massage it a little, but it is what it is. And here you have Hotshot in its robot mode. Now, of course, this is not all that Hotshot can do. First, it can hold its weapon. I am a little disappointed that it's one of these dual pegs, so it looks like it's holding it off center. But apparently on the original Armada toy, it couldn't hold its weapon at all. So there was that. So that's nice. But of course, as this is part of the Evo Fusion gimmick, you come into the back here. Make sure they got this all situated right. And flip up the bazooka, the rear axle. Now, I'm going to rotate it. At least I like rotating it so that open end is right there. You can angle it back a little if you like. And of course, flip down the visor. And there you go, the big gimmick. Hotshot's big gimmick. Now, on the original toy, it would fire a missile. That ain't happening here. Not at all. But so there is that. Now, something I want to note is if you look at it, one side of the axle is filled in. On the other side has some gaps. That's the side you want to fold up into the undercarriage here, so it'll sit. It won't interfere with that hinge when going to vehicle mode, and it will, sit properly. But I dig it. I think this is a fantastic figure, much better than the Universe release from a few years ago. So, how about we pause and we'll come back with my final thoughts. I think Hotshot's a fine figure. I know there are some people out there that have some deep-seated resentment against Armada Hotshot, but let us not forget that back then there was no adult line, there was no kids line. There was only one line, and it was supposed to cover. There was no kid-friendly line. It was just the Transformers line. So this had to do the job of number one, being something playable and fun, and covering the gimmick of the line, and being a little more articulated. Let's not forget the original Armada Hotshot from 20 plus years ago was still more articulated than most of the G1 figures we had. So And this is light years beyond that. Like I said, this is much better than that Universe figure, which, for whatever reason, was even neutered from the Takara release that it didn't include its weapons and missiles. This pretty much covers all the gimmicks you would want from a hotshot. The only thing that's missing, I think, is the inclusion of a mini top and of the light up hand gimmick. But seeing as how there's no translucent Star Saber for him, I could see why they didn't do that, and who really wants to deal with batteries? Now, I'm not sure if I'm gonna swap out the Star Saber from Armada Starscream to give to Hotshot, since I don't remember Starscream using the Star Saber, but I do remember Hotshot using it a lot. And let's not forget, he even became leader of the Autobots for a time after Armada Optimus Prime was quote unquote killed. So yeah, fun figure. I'm digging it. Uh, and now I got to see what I'm going to do with this one, since I have one that hopefully doesn't have the missing piece in it. So that's about it for the review. If you like this review, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. While I will always appreciate the views, likes, comments, and subscriptions, help to communicate to YouTube through their algorithms that my channel should be exalted and held upon high. If you want to make the ultimate sign of support, I do have a Patreon. It is www.patreon.com/chuckdog1999. All I ask for is $1 a month, $12 a year. No thrills, no tears, no special rewards. All you're doing is helping me help me to help you bring figures like Hotshot to you, as well as keeping up the infrastructure of the channel. But as I always say, I know we're in tough times. This is a recession. Well, we have inflation, and we're on the cusp of a recession. If you don't have the $1 a month or $12 a year to cover it, your views are more than thanks enough, and I truly mean that. Patreon is always a cherry on top of an already generous sundae. So that's about it for the review. Once again, this is your old pal Chuck for Hotshot. We will see you next time.